The Silent Invasion, Earth's First Contact. The day the world changed forever began like any other. I remember sipping my morning coffee, scrolling through the news on my tablet, blissfully unaware of the cosmic shift about to rock our planet to its core. My name is Dr. Samantha Chen, lead astrophysicist at the Global Space Observatory, and I was about to become humanity's unwitting ambassador to an alien civilization. It started with a blip on our deep space sensors. At first, we thought it was a glitch, a cosmic ray perhaps, or some space debris we hadn't cataloged. But as the hours ticked by, the blip grew stronger, more defined. By noon, our entire team was huddled around the main display, watching in awe as an object the size of Manhattan decelerated from near light speed on the edge of our solar system. "It's slowing down," whispered my colleague, Dr. Raj Patel, his voice barely audible over the hum of our computers. "That's impossible. Nothing that big should be able to maneuver like that." But the impossible was happening right before our eyes. The object, sleek and obsidian, curved gracefully around Jupiter's orbit, using the gas giant's gravity like a cosmic slingshot. Its trajectory was unmistakable. It was headed straight for Earth. Global panic ensued as news of the approaching object leaked to the press. Governments scrambled to formulate a response. Militaries worldwide went on high alert, and civilians stockpiled supplies, fearing the worst. But as the alien vessel entered Earth's orbit, it did nothing. It simply hung there, a silent sentinel above our blue marble. For days, we waited with bated breath. No communication, no aggressive moves, just an eerie silence that seemed to stretch into eternity. Then, exactly 1 week after its arrival, the ship sent a message. It was a simple binary code, easily decipherable, coordinates for a meeting point in the Sahara Desert. As the world's leading expert on extraterrestrial communications, though, admittedly, my expertise had been purely theoretical until now, I was drafted into a hastily assembled diplomatic team. We were a motley crew: scientists, linguists, military personnel, and politicians from various nations, all united by a mix of fear and curiosity. The meeting point was a flat expanse of sand, stretching as far as the eye could see. We arrived via helicopter, the whirling blades kicking up a storm of dust as we landed. And then we waited, squinting against the harsh desert sun, our hearts pounding in our chests. The alien arrival was as silent as their ship had been. One moment the sky was clear, the next, a shimmering portal opened before us. 3 beings stepped through, their forms rippling like mirages in the heat. They were nothing like the little green men of our imagination. Towering at nearly 10 feet tall, their bodies seemed to be composed of swirling iridescent mist contained within a vaguely humanoid shape. Where eyes should have been, they had swirling vortexes of energy. I stepped forward, my mouth dry, my palms sweating. "Welcome to Earth," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "We come in peace and hope for mutual understanding." The central figure's misty form pulsed, and a voice resonated in my mind, bypassing my ears entirely. "We are the Nexus," it said, the words somehow conveying a sense of ancient wisdom and terrible purpose. "And we have come to judge humanity's worthiness." A chill ran down my spine as the alien continued. "Your species stands at a crossroads. You have the potential for greatness, but also for destruction. We have watched you for millennia, waiting for this moment." "What moment?" I asked, fighting to keep my voice from trembling. "The moment when your technology advanced enough to pose a threat to the cosmic balance," the Nexus replied. "You stand on the precipice of faster-than-light travel, of harnessing the power of stars. But your wars, your divisions, your disregard for your own planet, these make you dangerous." The alien's form shimmered, and suddenly, holographic images appeared around us. I saw visions of Earth's past and present, our triumphs and our failures, our kindness and our cruelty, all laid bare. "We offer you a choice," the Nexus continued. "Prove your worthiness to join the galactic community, or face containment for the safety of all. Containment. General Hawthorne, our military representative, stepped forward. Is that a threat? The Nexus turned its swirling vortex eyes to the general. It is a necessity. If you cannot prove your species capable of wielding advanced technology responsibly, we will have no choice but to limit your development. For the good of all, my mind raced. This was humanity's greatest challenge, not a war of weapons, but a test of our very nature. How? I asked. How do we prove ourselves? The alien's form pulsed again. You have 1 Earth year. In that time, you must unite your planet, end your wars, and begin to heal the damage you have done to your world. Moreover, you must do this of your own accord, not through fear of us, but because it is the right path. That's impossible. Someone in our group shouted. You can't expect us to solve all of Earth's problems in a year. We do not expect perfection, the Nexus replied. We expect progress. Significant, meaningful progress. Show us that humanity can put aside its differences and work together for a greater purpose. Show us that you deserve the power you are about to unlock. With that, the aliens stepped back through their shimmering portal, leaving us standing in the desert, stunned and overwhelmed. As the portal closed, a small device appeared in the sand before us. A communication link, I realized, to contact the Nexus if needed. As we flew back to civilization, the weight of what had just transpired settled over us. Humanity faced an ultimatum: unite or be contained, evolve or be stunted. And we had just 1 year to do it. Looking out the helicopter window at the vast desert below, I couldn't help but wonder, could we do it? Could we overcome centuries of conflict, prejudice, and short-sightedness in just 1 year? As the one who had spoken to the aliens, I knew the eyes of the world would be on me, looking for guidance, for hope. The greatest challenge in human history had begun, and I was at the center of it all. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a year that would push humanity to its very limits and reveal both the worst and the best of what we were capable of. As we approached the city, its skyline growing on the horizon, I steeled myself for what was to come. The world was about to change, and we had to change with it. The clock was ticking, and the fate of humanity hung in the balance. Diplomacy in the face of destruction. The news of our encounter with the Nexus spread like wildfire across the globe. Within hours, emergency sessions of the United Nations were called. World leaders huddled in frantic video conferences, and social media exploded with a mix of panic, disbelief, and determination. As the only human who had directly communicated with the aliens, I found myself thrust into the spotlight. From briefing rooms in Washington to the halls of the UN in New York, I recounted our desert encounter countless times. Each retelling brought fresh waves of disbelief and anxiety from my audience. 1 year to unite the planet. The U.S. President shook her head, her face grim on the secure video feed. Dr. Chen, you're a scientist. You know that's impossible. I took a deep breath, keenly aware of the weight of history on my shoulders. Madam President, with all due respect, we don't have the luxury of believing in impossible anymore. The Nexus didn't ask for perfection, they asked for progress. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of global initiatives, emergency summits, and unprecedented cooperation. Climate change, long a contentious issue, suddenly became a unifying cause. Nations that had been at odds for generations found themselves working together, pooling resources and knowledge to tackle environmental challenges. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Old grudges died hard, and not everyone was convinced of the alien threat. Conspiracy theories ran rampant, claiming the whole thing was an elaborate hoax designed to establish a new world order. 3 months into our year-long challenge, I found myself in Beijing, mediating talks between China and a coalition of Southeast Asian nations over disputed territories in the South China Sea. The negotiations had been going on for days with little progress. "This is pointless," growled the Chinese foreign minister, slamming his fist on the table. "These islands have been Chinese territory for centuries. We will not yield to foreign pressure, alien or otherwise. I felt a headache building behind my eyes. We'd been at this for hours, and tempers were fraying. "Minister, please," I began, but I was interrupted by a commotion outside the conference room. An aide burst in, his face pale. "Turn on the news," he gasped. Now. The large screen on the wall flickered to life, showing a live feed from orbit. The Nexus ship, which had remained stationary since its arrival, was moving. As we watched in stunned silence, a beam of energy shot from the vessel, striking the surface of the moon. As if in response to the unspoken question, the communication device, the Nexus had left us, began to pulse. I fumbled with it, my hands shaking, and a holographic image of the alien we'd met in the desert appeared. "This is but a fraction of our power," the Nexus said, its voice echoing in our minds. "We do this not as a threat, but as a demonstration. Your moon will heal, in time. But know that we have the ability to unmake worlds if we deem it necessary." The image flickered out, leaving us in stunned silence. The Chinese foreign minister was the first to recover. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "we have been too hasty in our positions. In light of this demonstration, I believe China is willing to consider a joint development agreement for the disputed areas." I nodded, still too shocked to speak. As terrifying as the display had been, it had done what months of negotiations couldn't. It had brought home the reality of our situation and the need for unity. In the days that followed, similar scenes played out across the globe. The destruction of a portion of the moon, visible to all, had made the alien presence undeniable. Suddenly, humanity's petty squabbles seemed insignificant in the face of cosmic judgment. But not everyone reacted with cooperation. In some quarters, the demonstration of alien power fueled resentment and fear. Underground movements began to form, dedicated to resisting what they saw as alien oppression. They called themselves Earth First, and their numbers grew with each passing day. 6 months into our challenge, I found myself addressing the UN General Assembly. The Great Hall was packed, with representatives from every nation hanging on my every word. "We've made incredible progress," I said, my voice carrying across the hushed room. "In half a year, we've achieved what many thought impossible. Global carbon emissions are down by 30%. We've begun to heal the ozone layer. Wars have ceased in multiple regions, but we cannot rest on our laurels. We have much more to do, and time is running out." As I spoke, I couldn't help but think of the divisions that still plagued us. The Earth First movement was gaining traction, and there were whispers of plans to strike against the alien ship. If they succeeded, it could doom us all. Just as I was wrapping up my speech, alarms began to blare throughout the building. On the large screens around the hall, we saw breaking news. A massive solar flare, far larger than any in recorded history, was heading straight for Earth. Our year of challenges had just become infinitely more complicated. As panic began to spread through the assembly, I realized that this crisis could either break us or be the catalyst that finally brought humanity together. With determination, I raised my voice above the growing chaos. "This is not the end," I shouted. "This is our chance to prove ourselves, to show the Nexus and ourselves what humanity is truly capable of when we stand united." As the eyes of the world's leaders turned to me, I knew that the real test was just beginning. The solar flare was approaching. Earth First was plotting in the shadows, and the clock was ticking on our cosmic judgment. The next 6 months would determine the fate of our species, and I was at the heart of it all. Little did I know, the greatest challenges and the most surprising alliances were yet to come. The human resistance rises. As news of the impending solar flare spread, the world held its breath. Scientists estimated we had less than a month before the flare hit, potentially devastating our power grids and communication systems. It was a crisis that demanded a unified global response, but unity was becoming increasingly elusive. The Earth First movement, once a fringe group, had ballooned into a formidable organization with cells in every major city. Their message resonated with those who saw the Nexus's ultimatum as a threat rather than an opportunity. Humanity first, not alien approval, became their rallying cry. I found myself working around the clock, coordinating with scientists and engineers worldwide to develop a plan to mitigate the solar flare's impact. Sleep became a luxury I could ill afford. Dr. Chen, called out Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a brilliant physicist from Japan, during one of our video conferences. I think we've got something. A network of electromagnetic shields in orbit could deflect the worst of the flare. It was a promising idea, but the logistics were daunting. We'd need to launch hundreds of satellites in less than a month, I replied, rubbing my tired eyes. Is that even possible? Before anyone could answer, my secure phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. Not all aliens are friendly. Meet me at the old observatory. Come alone. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the delete button. It could be a trap or worse, a waste of precious time. But something in my gut told me this was important. I need to step out for a bit, I told the team. Keep working on the shield idea. I'll be back soon. The old observatory was a relic from the 1950s, long since abandoned in favor of more advanced facilities. As I approached the dilapidated dome, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Miranda Reeves, a former CIA analyst who had gone off the grid months ago. Dr. Chen, she said, her voice low and urgent. What I'm about to tell you will sound crazy, but I need you to listen. Over the next hour, Miranda laid out a tale that seemed ripped from the pages of a science fiction novel. According to her, the Nexus wasn't the benevolent arbiter of galactic peace they claimed to be. They were conquistadors, using the guise of a test to weaken and divide planets before conquering them. The solar flare, Miranda explained, her eyes wild. It's not natural. The Nexus triggered it. They're pushing us to our limits, hoping we'll either destroy ourselves or become so dependent on their technology that we'll welcome their rule. I wanted to dismiss her claims outright, but I couldn't ignore the nagging doubt that had been growing in my mind. The Nexus's test had always seemed too convenient, too perfectly designed to challenge us. Even if you're right, I said, what can we do? We can't fight them. You saw what they did to the moon. Miranda smiled grimly. We can't beat them with force. No, but we might be able to outsmart them. Earth First isn't just a resistance movement. We've been working on something, a way to communicate with other alien species. We think there are others out there who oppose the Nexus. As crazy as it sounded, I found myself considering her words. If she was right, it could change everything. But if she was wrong, aligning with Earth First could doom humanity's chances of passing the Nexus's test. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. It was Dr. Tanaka. Dr. Chen, we've got a problem. Someone's leaked our plans for the electromagnetic shield. Earth First is calling it a surrender to alien overlords. Protests are breaking out worldwide. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on me. When I opened them again, I saw Miranda watching me intently. What will it be, Dr. Chen? She asked. Will you keep playing by the Nexus's rules, or will you join us in fighting for true independence? At that moment, I realized that the fate of humanity might rest on the choice I was about to make. The idealist in me wanted to believe in the Nexus's test, in the possibility of earning our place in a galactic community. But the scientist in me couldn't ignore the evidence Miranda had presented. I need to see your research, I said finally. All of it. If what you're saying is true, we need to act fast. But I won't commit to anything until I'm sure. Miranda nodded, relief evident on her face. Follow me, she said, leading me deeper into the observatory. As we descended into a hidden basement lab, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was crossing a point of no return. The coming weeks would test not just humanity's ability to unite, but our very understanding of our place in the universe. Little did I know, the revelations waiting in that underground lab would shake the foundations of everything I thought I knew about the Nexus, about Earth's history, and about the true nature of the challenge facing humanity. The solar flare was approaching. The world was in chaos, and I was about to uncover a truth that could either save us all or tear us apart forever. As Miranda booted up her computer, I steeled myself for whatever came next. The fate of our species hung in the balance, and time was running out. Unexpected alliances and betrayals. The revelations in Miranda's underground lab were staggering. Earth First had managed to decrypt portions of the Nexus's communications, revealing a darker truth behind their supposed test. The Nexus wasn't a single alien race, but a coalition of conquering species that had subjugated countless worlds under the guise of evaluation. More shockingly, we weren't their first visit to Earth. Ancient cave paintings and artifacts that archaeologists had long puzzled over suddenly made sense. They were records of previous Nexus incursions, each ending in humanity's failure and a partial memory wipe of our species. "This changes everything," I murmured, poring over the data. "But how do we convince the world?" Miranda's team had an answer for that too. They'd developed a global broadcasting system that could bypass traditional media channels. With it, we could reveal the truth to everyone simultaneously. But before we could act, alarms blared through the facility. We'd been discovered. As security forces burst in, I made a split-second decision that would alter the course of history. I grabbed a data drive, shoved it into my pocket, and allowed myself to be captured while Miranda and her team escaped. The following days were a blur of interrogations and accusations. I was branded a traitor, a collaborator with extremists. But I bided my time, waiting for the right moment to reveal what I knew. That moment came during a globally televised UN emergency session on the approaching solar flare. As I was brought in to give expert testimony, I activated the hidden transmitter Miranda had given me. "People of Earth," I began, my heart pounding. "What I'm about to tell you will sound incredible, but I assure you, it's the truth." Over the next hour, I laid out everything. The Nexus's true nature, their history of conquest, and their repeated manipulations of humanity. As proof, I presented the decrypted alien communications and the reinterpreted archaeological evidence. The response was immediate and chaotic. Delegates shouted, accusations flew, and for a moment, I feared I'd just doomed humanity by shattering what unity we had left. But then something unexpected happened. The Nexus ship, silent for so long, suddenly broadcast a message to every screen on Earth. The aliens appeared, but they were arguing among themselves, unaware their transmission was open. The humans weren't supposed to discover this cycle's manipulation so quickly, one alien said, confirming everything I'd revealed. As their inadvertent admission played out on screens worldwide, I felt a shift in the room and across the globe. The threat was no longer abstract. It was real, confirmed, and undeniable. In that moment of shared shock and betrayal, humanity found a unity we'd been struggling to achieve all year. It wasn't the unity the Nexus had demanded, but a unity born of shared defiance. Part 5. Humanity's Final Stand and Triumph. With the truth revealed, the next weeks were a flurry of activity. The approaching solar flare, now recognized as an artificial threat, became a rallying point. Nations pooled resources, setting aside old grudges to work on Miranda's shielding technology. Earth First, no longer seen as extremists, shared their research openly. Scientists worked around the clock, improving on designs and strategies. Launch facilities worldwide worked in concert to deploy our hastily constructed shield network. As the day of the flare approached, I found myself in a globally televised address, standing before a united human race. "Today, we face our greatest challenge," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "But we face it together, not as nations or factions, but as humanity united." The flare hit, and for tense hours, we waited to see if our shields would hold. They did, but just barely. As celebrations erupted worldwide, we detected a new transmission from the Nexus ship. They were leaving their test a failure, not because we hadn't met their criteria, but because we'd exposed their lies. But humanity's trials weren't over. In the Nexus's wake, we detected new signals. Other alien races, some fleeing Nexus conquest, others longtime resistors, all reaching out to the species that had defied their oppressors. As I stood with world leaders, watching the first diplomatic meetings with these new alien races, I realized that humanity had passed a test after all. Not the Nexus's false evaluation, but a test of our own spirit, our ability to unite in the face of adversity, and our unwavering determination to forge our own path among the stars. The threat of the Nexus wasn't gone. They would return. We were sure, but we would be ready. In exposing their lies, we had taken our first steps into a larger galactic community, not as conquerors or conquered, but as equals. As I looked up at the stars, no longer distant and unreachable, I felt a profound sense of hope. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. The future was uncertain, filled with new challenges and opportunities, but for the first time, we would face that future as one human race, ready to take our place in the cosmos. We did it, I whispered to myself, a tear sliding down my cheek. We really did it. And as new alien ships appeared in the sky, not as conquerors, but as allies and refugees seeking help, I knew that humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning. We had witnessed the day humanity rose to its greatest challenge, and we had triumphed. Whatever the future held, we would face it together as one united Earth.